I've been with Jessica for 3 years now, and I gotta say, things have been interesting lately. Get me wrong, I love her, but her behavior's been driving me up the wall. I work my ass off, often clocking in over 40 hours a week, and all I want is a little peace when I get home. Instead, I'm bombarded with questions about where I've been, who I've talked to, and what my plans are for the next day, hour, or even minute. At first, I tried to be understanding. She'd tell me about her exes cheating on her, and I'd reassure her that I wasn't like them. But lately, it's been getting out of hand. The constant texts, the demands for updates, it's like I can't even take a piss without her wanting to know about it. What's really starting to bug me is how she's always on her phone. I mean, always. Texting someone non-stop, but God forbid I ask who it is. That's when the accusations start flying. Why are you so interested? Are you cheating on me? It's exhausting. I've been trying to shake this uneasy feeling, but it's not going away. Something's off, but I can't put my finger on it. That's when I decided to reach out to my buddy Greg. He works at the same fabrication plant as Jessica, and I figured he could help me out. Called him up trying to sound casual. Hey Greg, how's it going? Listen, I'm trying to plan a surprise for Jessica for our anniversary. Any chance you could snag a work schedule for me? Greg, being the stand-up guy he is, didn't hesitate. Sure thing, man. Let me check the system real quick. I could hear him tapping away on his keyboard. All right, got it. She's scheduled for 12-hour shifts Monday through Friday, except for Wednesdays. She's only working half days then. My stomach dropped. Half days on Wednesdays? That wasn't what Jessica had been telling me. According to her, she was working full days, sometimes even staying late. The pieces were starting to fall into place, and I didn't like the picture they were forming. Thanks, Greg. You're a lifesaver, I managed to say, trying to keep my voice steady. No problem, buddy. Hey, everything okay? You sound a bit off. I hesitated for a moment. Yeah, just a lot on my mind with this surprise planning. Thanks again, man. As I hung up, my mind was racing. What the hell was going on? Why would Jessica lie about her schedule? And who was she texting all the time? I had a sinking feeling I was about to find out, and I wasn't going to like the answer. I'd been stewing over Jessica's odd behavior for days, turning it over in my mind like a puzzle I couldn't quite solve. Greg's revelation about half-day Wednesdays only added fuel to the fire of my suspicions. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, but I needed more than just a hunch. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. I had some time off coming up, and I figured I could use it to do a little investigating of my own. The thought of following Jessica around like some kind of private eye didn't sit well with me, but I needed to know the truth. So I set up an old laptop in our apartment, angling it so the webcam had a clear view of the living room. It felt a bit skeevy setting up surveillance in my own home, but I justified it as necessary. So I installed some remote access software, making sure I could tap into the feed from anywhere. When Wednesday rolled around, I parked my car in the shopping center near our apartment complex. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was living in some kind of cheap detective novel. So I sat there for what felt like hours, my eyes glued to the entrance of our building. Just when I was starting to feel like a complete idiot, I saw it, a red Mustang pulling up to the curb. My stomach dropped. I knew that car. It belonged to Eric, Jessica's cousin by marriage. For a moment, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was just dropping something off. Or maybe Jessica needed a ride somewhere. But deep down, I knew. I could feel it in my gut. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and logged into the laptop's feed. The image was grainy, but clear enough. I watched as Jessica let Eric in, and my world shattered. So there was no mistaking what I was seeing. Jessica, the woman I loved and trusted, was all over Eric the moment he stepped through the door. I felt sick as I watched her unbutton his shirt, her lips pressed against his. Part of me wanted to look away, to pretend this wasn't happening, but I couldn't. So I sat there, frozen as they moved to the couch, our couch, and started doing it right there in the living room. I don't know how long I watched. It could have been minutes or hours. Time seemed to lose all meaning as I witnessed the betrayal unfolding before my eyes. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions, hurt, anger, disgust, and a cold, creeping desire for revenge. Before I knew what I was doing, I'd created a URL link to the live stream. My fingers moved almost of their own accord as I pasted it into the family and friends group chats. Jessica and Eric were in those chats, so it was pretty much everyone we knew. I hit send. For a moment there was silence. Then my phone exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, all from people who'd just seen what I'd seen. I ignored them all, my eyes still fixed on the feed. I knew it wouldn't be long before Jessica and Eric realized what had happened. Part of me wanted to storm in there, to confront them face to face. But another part, a colder, more calculating part, wanted to watch as their world came crashing down around them. So I sat there, waiting. As the notifications kept coming in, I wondered how long it would take for one of them to check their phone, to see the stream, to realize that their secret was out in the most public and humiliating way possible. Sat in my car, my heart pounding as I watched the live feed on my phone. The camera I'd hidden captured every sordid detail of Jessica and Eric's betrayal. My stomach churned with a mixture of disgust and vindication. I'd suspected something was off, but seeing it play out in real time was a different level of gut-wrenching. As I watched them writhing on our bed, the bed we'd shared for years, Jessica's phone suddenly blared to life. To the ringtone cut through their passionate moans, startling them both. Jessica fumbled for her phone, her face flushed with exertion and now a hint of panic. "It's your mum," she said to Eric, her voice trembling. Eric's eyes widened. "Don't answer it." But Jessica, ever the control freak, couldn't help herself. She hit the speakerphone button, probably thinking she could smooth talk her way out of this like she always did. "Hello?" she said, trying to sound casual. What came next was like a bomb going off in the apartment. Eric's mother's voice, shrill with fury, exploded through the speaker. "What the fuck do you think you're doing?" she screamed. "Stop fucking my son!" The look on Jessica and Eric's faces was priceless. Pure shock, like deer caught in headlights. Jessica's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. For once in her life, she was speechless. I don't know what you're talking about," Jessica finally stammered, but her voice was weak, unconvincing. "Don't you dare lie to me," Eric's mother raged. "I can see you. Everyone can see you." So that's when it hit them. The realization that they weren't just caught by one person, but that their dirty secret was out in the open for everyone to see. The blood drained from Jessica's face, and Eric looked like he was about to throw up. I couldn't help but let out a dark chuckle. The schadenfreude was intoxicating. All those times Jessica had accused me of cheating, all her paranoid demands to know my whereabouts, and here she was, the real cheater all along. Eric was the first to move. He practically fell off the bed, scrambling for his clothes. It was almost comical, watching him hop around trying to pull his pants on while Jessica sat there, frozen in shock. "I have to go," Eric muttered, his voice cracking. In his haste to get dressed, he didn't notice how close he was to my coffee table. As he turned to grab his shirt, his foot caught on the leg of the table. He went down hard, his forehead smacking against the edge with a sickening thud. "Fuck!" he cried out, clutching his head. I winced despite myself. That had to hurt. The table now sported a noticeable dent, a permanent reminder of this clusterfuck of a situation. Eric stumbled to his feet, clearly dazed. A red mark was already forming on his forehead, promising to turn into one hell of a bruise. He barely managed to pull his shirt on before staggering towards the door. I knew this was my cue. I got out of the car, my body thrumming with adrenaline. I positioned myself near the front of the apartment complex, waiting. It didn't take long before Eric emerged, his eyes darting around nervously. When he saw me, he froze. The color drained from his face and tears immediately welled up in his eyes. It was pathetic. "Michael, I'm so sorry," he blubbered. "It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything." I just stared at him, letting the silence stretch out uncomfortably. Eric shifted from foot to foot, clearly wanting to bolt but too afraid to move. "Sorry," I finally said, my voice low and dangerous. "You're fucking sorry." Eric nodded frantically, tears now streaming down his face. "Please, Michael, I never meant for this to happen. We can talk about this, right?" So I took a step closer to him. "Talk. You want to talk about how you've been fucking my girlfriend behind my back? How you betrayed not just me, but your entire family?" Eric flinched at my words. I know it was wrong. I'll do anything to make it right." Something in me snapped. All the hurt, all the anger I'd been holding back came rushing to the surface. Before I knew what I was doing, my fist connected with Eric's jaw. He went down like a sack of potatoes, sprawling on the ground. I was on him in an instant, raining down blows. Each punch felt like sweet release, a physical manifestation of my pain and betrayal. Eric didn't even try to fight back. He just curled up, whimpering and crying. And it wasn't until I felt a sharp pain in my hand that I came back to my senses. I stumbled back, breathing heavily. Eric lay on the ground, his face a mess of blood and tears. Part of me felt sick at what I'd done, but a darker part felt satisfied. "Get the fuck out of here," I spat. "And don't you ever come near me or Jessica again." Eric didn't need to be told twice. He scrambled to his feet and limped away as fast as he could, not even looking back. I looked down at my hand. It was already swelling, and I could tell something was broken. Great, just another thing to deal with. Taking a deep breath, I headed up to the apartment. It was time to face Jessica. When I walked in, Jessica was sitting on the couch, fully dressed now. Her face was a mess of tears and smeared makeup. When she saw me, she jumped to her feet. "Michael," she cried. "I can explain. It's not what you think." I just stared at her, feeling nothing but cold contempt. This woman who I'd loved and trusted for years, who had constantly accused me of cheating, she was nothing but a hypocrite and a liar. "Is that snot or cum on your face?" I asked, my voice devoid of emotion. Jessica's mouth dropped open in shock. She raised a hand to her face, wiping at it frantically. "It doesn't matter," I continued before she could respond. "You have 1 hour to pack your things and get out. Everything in this apartment is mine. You're not on the lease." "But Michael," she sobbed, "where am I supposed to go? Please, we can work this out. I love you." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Love me? You have a funny way of showing it. 1 hour, Jessica. And then I never want to see you again. Oh, Jane." I turned and walked out of the apartment, leaving Jessica crying behind me. I needed some air, and I needed to get my hand looked at. As I headed to my car, I felt a strange mix of emotions, anger, hurt, but also a sense of freedom. It was over. The lies, the suspicion, all of it. And despite the pain, I knew I was better off without her. Looking back at it, I still don't feel a damn bit of regret for how things played out. I mean, hell, what other choice did I have? You catch your girl and your cousin, of all people, screwing around, and something in you just snaps. Everything you thought you knew, everything you'd built with them, just crumbles, and whatever love there was turns into a kind of cold clarity. I wasn't even angry by the time I hit record. I'd already decided it was over. She wasn't worth burning myself out with rage. No, I wanted everyone to see it. The betrayal. The stupidity of the whole damn thing. They deserved each other. And everyone else deserved to know too. So when I finally told Jessica to get out, she must have thought it was some empty threat. She stood there, doe-eyed, like I just kicked her dog. "Pack your shit," I told her, my voice level not once breaking. I was done yelling. Someone like her didn't deserve that kind of reaction. I was already over it, in a way. But I wanted her out of my space. And if she didn't realize it at that moment, she sure did an hour later when I locked the door behind her. After that, things got real quiet. Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. My memory's funny about that moment. Sitting there, alone in that apartment, confirming the way I'd felt for weeks when things didn't seem right. Now I knew why. And now there wasn't any Jessica to answer to. The aftermath didn't sink in until I saw her standing out by the curb, phone to her ear, calling God knows who. Of course, I later found out exactly who she called, because Greg filled me in. Word travels fast in small towns like ours, especially when you're dumb enough to cheat with someone in the family. Her first call was to her mom, but she must have forgotten how her folks were almost stricter than the church in this place. Jessica's mother all but laughed at her over the phone. "You're not staying here. I raised you better than that." She had nowhere to go after that. Tried her brothers next. They didn't waste a second shutting her out too. Family was everything to them, and there wasn't a shot in hell they'd go against that. They told her this situation was her own mess to deal with, and I guess, in a way, they were right. Jessica had made her decisions. I couldn't help but picture it like some karma pendulum swinging back and smacking her in the face. Poetic. Eric didn't fare much better either, or so I heard. His mother, the same woman who was practically a second mom to me when we were growing up, kicked him right to the curb. It was after she called him out, berating him for how vile he'd been. Screwing over your own blood. She didn't stop to ask for a defense, not that there was any for what he'd done. And when she'd had enough, she told him he was no longer welcome under her roof. I can see it in my head now, Eric standing there, dumbstruck, luggage in hand, not even getting another chance to plead his case. Everyone thought this was totally on brand for his mom. She wasn't one of those people you'd want to cross. Fierce, family-bound. And God help Eric for bringing that kind of shame to the doorstep of the woman who once prided herself on running a respectable household. So there you had it, two newly homeless idiots walking away from their shattered lives together, I guess. How long they stuck together after I kicked Jessica out? Hell if I know. But I do know that whatever illusion she'd had, that she could crawl back to family or friends for some sympathy, that was toast. She'd get no charity from the people she once leaned on. And yeah, I don't pretend I didn't enjoy it, watching that slow-motion collapse of hers. But I spent enough time doubting myself, wondering if what I was doing was some overaction or pulling a dick move. Turns out, all I really did was expose two people for who they were. Nothing more, nothing less. Jessica got what was coming to her. Eric couldn't hide behind his smug grin anymore, either. Even in a small town where everyone knows everyone, they sank fast. Nobody wanted any part of a woman who'd torn apart her relationship and humiliated herself in front of half the family tree. That's the thing with small places like ours. You can't outrun shame, not when everyone's connected by their work, their favorite bar, or their daily routine. If you make a wrong step, you fall hard. Word got round fast that she crapped on her own doorstep, and the ramifications hit quick. People started ghosting her, stopped calling. Her co-workers distanced themselves. Hell, knowing Greg, he probably stoked those fires for a few laughs. I never asked, but it seemed like the type of thing he'd do just because. When it rains, it pours around here. Soon Jessica's world was a train wreck no one wanted to get close to. She was untouchable. Even the people who used to call her regularly, bring her in on weekend get-togethers, or just ask for favors, they weren't answering her calls anymore. In a town this size, it wasn't a conscious vendetta. It was just how things went. You become a social pariah without needing to be declared one. People don't want to associate with that kind of reputation. Can't say I blamed them. Greg and I kept our little joke between us, laughing whenever her name came up. He knew everything, of course. He was the one who'd helped connect dots when she first started acting shady. After all, if she hadn't tried to lie about her shifts and work hours, I probably would have been none the wiser. Funny how things click into place after you learn the truth. 12 years later, I'm still living by that same clear-headed outlook. Jessica's a distant memory. I've moved on in ways I never thought were possible while I was still tangled up in her toxicity. I eventually found a woman worth my damn time. A partner who doesn't need to lie or play power games, and we've got 3 kids. Don't get me wrong, parenting has its challenges, but compared to living under a cloud of suspicion with someone like Jessica, it's easy. I wake up every day actually looking forward to what we're building here. This life I'd started to doubt could ever be mine. Greg and I still laugh about it sometimes. Whenever we remember the mess that was, it's usually over a beer with him cracking some sarcastic comment about her or Eric. For that matter, neither of them had any shot left in this town. Trust dies fast here, and people around these parts don't forget betrayal. You step on the wrong toes, you pay. I wouldn't have had it play out any other way.